Today we're going to talk about how to find your life purpose with a 5-step exercise. I am your host, Lia Dunlap, and you are listening to the Oracle on Purpose podcast, where we help intentional leaders clarify their purpose and next steps to create a work and life of significance. Let's start by the obvious. What is your purpose, or what I like to call your unique life purpose? What is it and why does it matter? So the true definition for me over the 25 years that I've been doing this work, that I've come to really kind of hone down to, is that our unique life purpose is basically a codex. It is the underlying DNA of our drive to be here as human beings, and also as part of the function of what we're doing in our work when we're aligned with it. Anyway, it's also your personal internal guidance system. We're born with this internal drive, a purpose, a codex, if you will, that shows us how to live as human beings here, as the unique individuals that we are. And it's also, in business, what I like to call your business's sacred cornerstone. And, back in the olden days, when we talked about architecture and the mason work, there was always a cornerstone, a stone that every building, the foundation of every building was built on. And similar to that, your purpose can actually be the cornerstone of your business, especially, and most especially, if you align it that way. So that's why it matters. It matters not only obviously because out of all of the other opportunities for anyone else to be born, you were chosen, which means that you have a unique gift or offer or something to bring to the world that only you can, right? That is the key ultimately, that you were created out of a 1 in 400 quadrillion chance of anyone else being created. You were created. You were brought here on earth for a reason. And that purpose is that reason. So your unique life purpose is the reason that you exist. Now, a lot of people will say that, why does this matter? Can we just be? I heard that statement. Why can't we just be? Well, even in just being, that's the beauty of this. There is something inside of you, inside of the very fiber of who you are, that is working towards being revealed and fulfilled in life. Just like the acorn seed being planted in the ground, everything inside of it to make it a tree, and actually to produce more acorns, by the way, already exists in the very fiber of its being. That is the same with all of us. Each of us has something inside of us that we're planted here to bloom and blossom into. And so the benefits really of knowing what your unique life purpose are many. So I'm just going to give you a couple today that I think are key to really understanding how you can utilize your ULP, unique life purpose, in not only your life, but your work. And for me, as a holistic coach, by that I mean that I believe that every part of who we are plays a role or a function in how we work and play and live and love. And so to me, the idea of having this unique life purpose really clear and having a clear understanding of what that is for each of us really can transform our lives and allow us to live in a much more forward-thinking, realistically attuned and aligned place. And when I say realistically, I think that's important to say, because I think sometimes people think of this as a purpose being so grandiose that it's out of reach. And I disagree. I think that for each of us, what our purpose is uniquely attuned to who we are. We are completely capable of delivering. We have whatever we need. We will learn whatever needs to be learned. We will gather whatever information or education or experience we need to deliver this purpose to the world, because that's why we're here, right? That is exactly what we were intended to do. So there is no way for us to be without it. It is part of who we are and how we move through the world. It helps us, though, on a practical sense, by helping us to determine whether a project, an offer, a job is aligned. with who we are, right? It also can help us gain energy for the things that serve us in fulfilling our unique life purpose. And it can give us a balance of feedback. So if we have people who are critiquing us or business challenges that feel like they're kind of running against us, if we have a really clear sense of what our unique life purpose is, then we can use that as a balancing mechanism to hold against what's happening, right? Our experience, and determine whether there's something in it for us. And by for us, I mean literally for us to continue to fulfill our purpose, right? There's always, the tree is always growing ever upward, right? So our purpose is always moving through us to reach fulfillment. Today, I want to talk about just 5 steps that you can take that will help you to understand what your unique life purpose is. Now, some will tell you that it takes years and decades and wandering the desert to figure this out. And 2 things. I don't believe that, first of all. And I don't think it even makes sense. Like, why would you be lost in the wilderness for years trying to understand something that you were literally born here to create? Now, it doesn't mean that we can't get distracted. Doesn't mean that we can't get off the path. Doesn't mean that we can't lose sight of it. But there are real concrete ways for us to figure out what it is and how we can actually take it and use it as a function of moving through our world and our lives and our businesses to better serve, to better show up, to live a life of ease. And you know, when I started this work 25 years ago, one of the comments that people made back then when I was working on using the law of attraction and I was helping people understand how to understand what their purpose was and how to actually create a system for tapping into that, people would say, like, everything seems to work out for you. You lived a charmed life. And I have to think that part of that is just this, understanding why I'm here, understanding my purpose, so that whatever's happening, I can always go back to that as the starting point of what to do next. And so many of the clients that I speak with or people that I talk to, even that just call in to check in to see if we're a good fit to work together, there's always that question of, I'm not sure what to do next. And this one piece, understanding this one piece, can really make a difference. So the first thing we're going to talk about, the first step, is really to discover your core spiritual qualities. Now, to discover your core spiritual qualities is step 1 of this 5-step process. And the way that you'll do that is to understand, what are the things in your life, what are the qualities of life that you find you are most attuned with. And one quick way to do that is, to start this off by really stepping into a place where you know and or remember being at complete ease, like a sense that everything was right in the world. All things considered, everything was right in the world. So when you think about that, imagine for yourself that in doing so, you have tapped into some core fundamental spiritual qualities of life in those moments. So some of those might be like, some examples would be like joy, peace, hope, integrity, honesty, bravery, whatever those are. But the thing is, when you start to look at them really closely, you understand that there's a couple key factors. 1, these are non-negotiable for you. They must be upheld, whatever these core spiritual qualities are. They must be universal. In other words, they must apply for you as well as others. So when you see them in place, you recognize that they're not just for you, but they're for all beings, okay? So can be applied anywhere at any time. And then they're ecological. And this is really important when we might be looking at different options and we say, like, well, is it this word or that word? Ask yourself, is this ecological? By that I mean, is it beneficial to you, others, the planet as a whole, right? So the core spiritual qualities that we can really tap into, there's an opportunity for them to be applied across the board. So whether it's you upholding them or someone else, that they can be used in different places from different people. So that's like step 1. So kind of looking at those key words that come up. And what you'll do then is write down a list of what those words are. Start with the first ones that come to mind. And, just take 1 minute and write down as many as you can. All right. So the second step is to evaluate your current life activities. Look at what you're doing now. Success leaves clues, right? So does your purpose. It's kind of like one of those things when you figure it out at the end of this process, you're gonna look back and go, it's everywhere. It's in everything you do. It's in everything you say. It's how you show up. It's how you get frustrated because you can't show up. Like those are all clues as to what's going on. So the next step really is to evaluate your current life activities. So when I say life, I mean life and business, all of these things, right? Or a holistic approach again. So this is the point where I want you to take another sheet of paper out and I want to write down a list of where you spend your time at home and at work. What kinds of things are you doing? So think about it this way. What do you give your physical energy to? What do you give your mental energy to? What are you responsible for on a regular basis? Most people, they're going to come up with about 10, 15, roughly probably around 20 if you're going through work and business. So if you've got work and business, you should probably come up with about close to 20 roles that you fulfill in every day. Okay? So that's the second step. Like evaluate where you're already showing up in your life. Don't go too far because the next piece of this is really going to help you ferret out the next part of this, which is like people are saying like, yeah, well, I do things I don't like. Could that be my purpose? Possibly. Probably not. You do the things you don't like, right? It may have some piece to do with your purpose, like with those core spiritual qualities we talked about, but it's probably not entirely the case. So the next piece is really where we're going to find the axis of alignment. And this is where you get to really hone in on that truth. And I'll tell you what, I've done this process with groups across the world, and it doesn't matter where they are. One of the first things that people get surprised with is the number of things on this list that aren't aligned. So don't be surprised if once you get to this next step, you realize you too have some things that are written on your list that really do not align with your core spiritual qualities or your purpose. So what we're going to do is take that list of all the things that you feel like you do on a regular basis in your life and your business, and now ask yourself which of your core spiritual qualities are present in each of those roles. So on one hand, you're going to write down you're a doctor, you're a mother, you're a cook, you're a chef, you do all the things you do, right? And then next to it, you're going to write exactly which of the core spiritual qualities you listed before actually apply to that role. Okay, so that's the first part of this next step. And then which of the core spiritual qualities show up most, right? So scan through your list once you've completed it and look, how many times does the word love, how many times does the word hope, intelligence, grace, whatever that is, how many times do those words start to appear? Okay, and you can start to see a pattern there of the key words, those 3 to 5 words, which we'll talk about in a second, that really stand out. So first just go through and circle them or highlight them with a pen. And then once you're done that and looked at all of that, what current life role, like business or personal life, is aligned with the most of those core spiritual qualities? So there's going to be, probably it's going to be even just obvious to look at it, but you're going to see the ones that are most common, right? So those common ones, the ones that multiply most often on the page, and that role where most of those exist, okay? So when you get to that place, I want you to take a look at it, take a breath. If you see some on there that are like, don't have any or have 1 or 2 core spiritual qualities, just be aware. Be aware that that's where you're spending your precious time, energy, and it can be depleting you from giving that energy to the things that really do matter and are aligned with your purpose. Okay. So the last piece of this, or the next 2 pieces of the next step of this part, is to look for the top 3 to 5 repeated core spiritual qualities, like we talked about. Like look through those, figure out what those words are, what's on the top of that list. Try to narrow it down to 3 to 5 words, preferably 3, but 3 to 5 is fine. Now, which role again has the most of those 3 to 5 core spiritual qualities? You're kind of narrowing down again of your like ultimate highest role, right? The best use of your energy as a human being that is actually aligned with the core spiritual qualities you most value. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Then how can you use that role? Answer this question. This is the next step. So maybe another sheet of paper. How can you use that role? So whatever it is, if it's mother, for example, we'll just use that as I'm a mother. How can you use that role to better serve your people, your clients, your customers, whatever that role is. How can you use that role now that you know how aligned it is? How can you use it? What do you do with it to help others, right? So i.e., if we're using an example of a mother, it might be to grow healthy children. If we're using the example, let's say from the business perspective, if you're a CEO, it can be leadership, right? So leadership might be one of those core values. And you say, okay, so I can help use this leadership core value to really find a way to bring out the best in others, to lead by example, might be another way to say that. And then the next question is, how does delivering that service, whatever it is you're doing, in that way, from a point of leadership, for example, as we were just talking about as a CEO, from a point of leadership, being a CEO, how does that impact the world for the better? How can you impact the world for the better by being a leader and a CEO? Now, it doesn't mean that everybody who's a CEO is a leader, by the way, because of course that's not always the case. But if that is your core spiritual quality, it's one of your top 3, then as a leader and as a CEO, what does that allow you to do for the world? Like how are you able to then translate that into making the world a better place or impacting some area of the world in a better way, right? So once you've got those pieces together, you can start to see how knowing what your purpose is, getting a sense of what roles you're doing now, or maybe roles you'd like to do in the future, by the way, would give you the opportunity to really serve on a grander scale in the world. Okay, so once you've done that, the 5th step, right, is to, now that you've answered those questions, hopefully, and that might take you more than a minute to be fair, because, you know, all of us can sometimes get to a place where we're not really sure, but the steps are there. So the 5th step is to actually create a life/business mantra that allows you to come back to your purpose. So when you're making decisions, either important life decisions or business decisions, you have a sense of why you're here. Which really, when people ask that question, how do I know what my life purpose is? The question behind that question typically is, why am I here? And the life mantra becomes that message. It becomes that message to you, and it also becomes the message that you share with the world. And that can be in life, and it can also be in business. So an example of that might be this. I've done this myself. Obviously, I wouldn't do something or ask you to do something I wouldn't have done myself. But this is just an example, and listen to it, and you can probably hear where these pieces of the steps before have come in. So I am the Oracle on Purpose, an intuitive business architect, committed to truth, transformation, and freedom. My business sweet spot is the combination of divine guidance and practical business solutions that help entrepreneurs align their purpose and business genius to positively transform the world. So I'm sure if you've been following along and writing your stuff down, you probably heard it. You heard all those steps in there, right? Who I am, my role that I fulfill, the things that I'm committed to, so my core spiritual qualities, and then how I use those along with my gift to really make the world a better place. So remember, knowing your unique life purpose is like having an internal compass that guides you through your life journey and helps you deliver on the promise you were born to fulfill. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe and ring the bell. And if you want to see more videos like this, click right here.